Welcome to Grand Prix, your go-to channel for the fastest updates in Formula One. We've got 3 hot stories for you, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the pack. Let's get started. After several weeks of intense speculation, it now appears that Mercedes is on the verge of renewing George Russell's contract. The confirmation came directly from team principal Toto Wolff during an interview with Sky Sports earlier this week. According to Wolff, the expectation is that the deal will be finalized before Formula One summer break, which begins right after the Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend. This means we may have an official announcement regarding Russell's future within the next few days, finally putting an end to the uncertainty that's hovered over the Mercedes garage since the beginning of the season. Russell's current contract is set to expire at the end of the 2025 season, and talks about an extension have reportedly been ongoing for months. Yet despite the looming expiration, Russell has remained composed and focused. Wolff praised the young British driver for his maturity and mental stability, highlighting that the contract discussions haven't negatively affected his on-track performance. Still, Wolff admitted he had hoped to settle the matter much earlier in the year. According to Sky Sports, the renewal will likely be a multi-year agreement. The new contract is expected to extend through the 2026 and 2027 seasons, with the potential option for a third year, possibly taking Russell through to the end of 2028. If this plan materializes, it would place Russell among the long-term pillars of Mercedes' driver lineup heading into the new era of Formula One regulations in 2026, when new engine and chassis rules come into play. This kind of continuity could prove crucial for Mercedes as they attempt to reclaim the dominance they once had in the hybrid era. This decision gains even more context now that Max Verstappen's future appears to be locked in with Red Bull. With Helmut Marko confirming that Verstappen will stay with the team in 2026, the chances of Mercedes signing the Dutchman for next season have all but evaporated. That reality pushes Mercedes to secure their existing talent and build around it, rather than continue chasing uncertainties in the driver market. George Russell, with his growing experience and consistent performance, represents a safe and strategic choice. Alongside Russell, Andrea Kimi Antonelli is also expected to be part of Mercedes' future. While the details of Antonelli's deal remain more flexible, current reports suggest he will likely sign a shorter-term agreement, perhaps initially for 1 year with a potential option to extend. This strategic move leaves a small window of opportunity open, just in case Verstappen's situation at Red Bull changes dramatically in 2027, when the next major round of contract reshuffling could take place. What's interesting is how calculated Mercedes appears to be in this entire process. Rather than banking on uncertain moves involving big names like Verstappen or rekindling hope for Lewis Hamilton's return, the team is choosing to double down on a driver they have developed and trusted. Russell's performances since joining the team in 2022 have been solid, and while he hasn't always had the car to fight for victories, he's proven himself as a reliable and highly skilled driver. His ability to extract maximum performance from difficult machinery has impressed not just fans, but also team management. As the Hungarian Grand Prix approaches and the summer break looms, the timing seems ideal for Mercedes to solidify its plans. Once the ink is dry, the team will shift focus entirely to development for 2026, knowing that their driver pairing, Russell and likely Antonelli, is settled and ready to face the new technical challenges head-on. That kind of internal stability could give them a head start in the race to adapt to the sweeping regulation changes. One issue that's becoming more and more frequent in Formula One is the way rain affects the race weekends. In the past, wet weather races were some of the most exciting and memorable moments in the sport. Today, however, it's almost expected that if it rains, especially if it rains heavily, there won't be much of a race at all. We've been seeing repeated delays, red flags, rolling starts behind the safety car, and hours of waiting, often with little to no real racing under wet conditions. And that trend is starting to frustrate both fans and drivers alike. The most recent example came during the Belgian Grand Prix, where the race start was delayed by nearly an hour and a half due to rainfall. Once again, wet weather disrupted what could have been an intense and dramatic race. But this time, Max Verstappen didn't hold back his frustration. The reigning world champion publicly criticized race control, stating that decisions like this are ruining what used to be legendary wet weather battles in Formula One. In his words, the sport is losing one of its core thrills, watching the world's best drivers tackle the unpredictable challenges of a soaked racetrack. Verstappen said in an interview that the race could have started hours earlier. He mentioned that all drivers have already discussed the importance of being cautious under those conditions, adjusting their driving, and being aware of the risks. But waiting until the track was nearly dry before starting the race was, in his view, an unnecessary delay. According to Max, Formula One needs to make a decision. Either accept that wet races are part of the sport and embrace the challenge, or be honest and admit that they won't race in the rain anymore. He went further by pointing out that exciting wet races are still possible even with the current generation of cars and rules. As proof, he referenced the British Grand Prix from just a few weeks ago, which saw thrilling racing despite varying weather conditions. For Verstappen, the key is not about pushing drivers into dangerous conditions, but trusting their ability to manage the risks and letting the racing happen, even if it's messy and chaotic at times, because that's what makes it real. His comments sparked a wider conversation in the paddock. Several teams and drivers quietly share similar concerns. There's growing dissatisfaction with how Formula One handles rain-affected sessions. The fear is that by becoming overly cautious, the sport is losing some of its raw edge, the very element that made so many past races unforgettable. Of course, safety remains a top priority, and no one is arguing that drivers should be sent out in dangerous conditions blindly. But the balance between caution and spectacle is starting to tilt too far in one direction. In the end, this isn't just about one race or one delay. It's a reflection of a broader trend. As the sport evolves, so do the expectations. But there's a fine line between protecting the drivers and sterilizing the competition. Verstappen's blunt remarks might not lead to immediate change, but they do highlight a sentiment that many within the sport are starting to feel. Formula One needs to remember what made it great in the first place. Let the drivers race, even in the rain. After months of rumors and speculation behind the scenes of Formula One, the wait is over. Max Verstappen has officially confirmed that he will remain with Red Bull in 2026. The announcement brings an end to one of this year's biggest off-track sagas and reinforces the Dutch driver's commitment to the Austrian team, even amid recent internal tensions. Verstappen's name had been constantly linked to a potential team switch. The rumors began with speculation about a performance clause in his contract, which allegedly could have been triggered if he fell out of the top 3 in the championship standings before the summer break. As Red Bull's performance started to show signs of decline, the idea of a move gained momentum, especially with a seat open at Mercedes and Toto Wolff's public interest in bringing Max to the team. Despite all the noise, Verstappen remained silent. No confirmations, no denials. But that changed this Thursday when he finally spoke out. In a clear and direct statement, Verstappen confirmed he will stay with Red Bull through 2026, a year that marks the beginning of Formula One's new technical regulations and engine format. According to Max, the rumors were just speculation. Throughout this time, he remained focused on working with his engineers and discussing the team's plans for the future. In his view, that alone made it obvious that leaving was never really on the table. He also emphasized that he's pleased with recent changes within the team, especially with the appointment of Johan Mekwas as Red Bull's new team principal following Christian Horner's departure. This change in leadership reportedly played a key role in convincing him to stay, as he believes the team is realigning itself with a strong vision for the future. Still, Verstappen left the door slightly open. As he stated, the rumors may return in 2026, depending on how each team performs in the new era of Formula One. If Red Bull fails to deliver a competitive car, he might reconsider his future beyond that season, especially if rivals come out stronger under the new rules. For now, Verstappen is locked in with Red Bull and focused on continuing his path of dominance. The team, in turn, must rise to the challenge and give him a machine worthy of his talent. So what do you think? Did Verstappen make the right call by staying put, or would you have preferred to see him take on a new challenge with a different team in 2026?